So recently, a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy footage got leaked online. There's about, I think, a minute of footage out there. I know there was like a 40-second kind of trailer that was shown at some kind of convention. I'm not sure what the convention was, how the hell did it get leaked online, but it got leaked and it showed off that the movie's coming along, fairly well. They already have Groot, Rocket Raccoon. They're all already rendered, even though the film's only been in like production for maybe 2 weeks, maybe even less than 2 weeks, and the film already looks like it's well underway to completion. But I am not excited for this film at all because, first of all, I really don't like the cast, like the main cast that they've put together for this whole for the team. I don't like the guy directing it, and I have, just from the footage, I have a lot of problems with this film. Now, I'm gonna get James Gunn out of the way. James Gunn is a horrible director. He did the goddamn Scooby-Doo movies. Like he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies, and those are some of the worst films of all time. And this guy did like some kind of PG porn for GTTV. No, not G4. Yeah, for G4. He directed James Gunn's PG porn for G4 before that channel got canceled. And really, this guy just seems like a complete dickhead. Like, everyone calls Mark Millar a big asshole, but this guy just screams asshole. Like, he made a top 10 list of superheroines he would have sex with, and then I read that thing, and Jesus Christ, like, if I met this guy in real life, I would probably beat the living shit out of him, because he is just a kick-ass character in the real world. And in the real world, you cannot act like a kick-ass character. You have to act like a normal fucking human being. And from his work, like, really? You're gonna get the guy who did PG porn and wrote the Scooby-Doo movies to direct Guardians of the Galaxy? Are you fucking insane? Why the hell wouldn't you get Neil Blomkamp, the guy who did Elysium or District 9? Why the hell would you get James freaking Gunn? Alright, now for the cast. I'm alright with Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. Well, I used to be, but then I seeing his scenes here, he really doesn't strike me as the kind of action hero dude, because Star-Lord is an action hero. He is basically the dude who has like dual pistols and he just shoots people in the face and stuff. He has the badass helmet, and from the footage I've seen him in, he really doesn't look like he could pull it off. Like, when I think Chris Pratt, I don't think of an action hero at all. I just don't see him pulling that off. Now, I think you could do a good Peter Quill, but to do a perfect Star-Lord, you have to look like you can actually do the action right, and he, from the footage I saw, just doesn't look convincing enough for me. Now, Dave Bautista is a big problem for me, because hiring a wrestler is the most asinine thing you could possibly do for a role. Now, granted, to play Drax, you really don't have a lot of personality. Like, Drax is usually the kind of guy who's just like, yeah, let's go kill shit. Like, he really doesn't have a personality, and I don't think you need to have a lot of acting skills to act like Drax. But here's the problem. They've apparently gotten Vin Diesel himself to play Groot. Now, here's something I want to say. Why in the hell wouldn't you cast Vin Diesel as Drax? I mean, Vin Diesel knows how to act, and he is a proven action hero. Like, when I see Vin Diesel, I see Drax. Like, the dude is huge as hell. We know he can kick ass. He actually knows how to fight. He's Riddick. He's, that badass leader guy from the Fast and Furious movies. And why the fuck? Well, why the hell would you get Vin Diesel, sign him on for a film where all his voice is gonna say is, I am Groot. I am Groot. And his voice doesn't even fit Groot. Like, the perfect guy for Groot was the guy from Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and I hope that's the guy they bring in to voice Rocket Raccoon later on. And you easily just could have hired that guy, because that guy is a voice actor. You don't have to pay him that much, and for fuck's sake, all he says is, I am Groot. It's not like you're like asking him to like have this big epic speech or some shit. You're basically just paying a voice actor from a television cartoon to say I am Groot a couple of dozen times, and that's it. It's dirt cheap, and I don't understand why the hell would you get Vin Diesel as Groot and Dave Bautista as Drax when you just could have gotten that guy who did Groot on the Avengers vs. My Heroes show to play Groot here, and you could have cast Vin Diesel as Drax. And Vin Diesel knows how to act. Like, sure, you can make fun of his voice all you want, but the dude knows how to act. And if you just put, like, green paint all over him, he is Drax. Done. He's Drax. And then we get to Zoe Saldana. I'm sorry, but this chick, I cannot see her as the most badass assassin in the galaxy. Like, she did another action movie, which was also kind of a comic book adaptation, where she plays this badass female assassin, and she is so skinny, and she doesn't have that edge. Like, when you think the most badass woman, in the galaxy, the most dangerous woman in the galaxy, trained by Thanos himself to, basically murder everybody, I don't think Zoe Saldana. And I think the only reason she was even picked for this movie was so, she was in Avatar, and she played a blue chick there. So now we're going to cast her here so she can play a green chick. And from what I saw of her in the footage, she has the same problem as Chris Pratt. I don't see her as the most dangerous woman on the universe. Her fighting, she still looks really, really goddamn skinny. And Gamora should be a little bulkier. Like, honestly, like, I feel they should have gotten Mila Jovovich. I honestly think, because Mila Jovovich knows how to kick ass. Like, all you have to do is let her, like, grow out her hair, put a wig on her or something, and she could kick ass, because we know that Mila Jovovich can kick ass. Sure, she kicks ass in horrible movies, but she is a great action heroine. Like, she could kick ass. Like, fuck, Angelina Jolie could probably be a better Gamora, because she also knows how to fight. And Zoe Saldana, I don't see her as the most badass woman on the planet, because that's something the actress needs to have. Like, when you know that an actress has been a badass action heroine in an action flick, or maybe a few of them, then you can more easily buy her performance as that kind of character in a film. Zoe Saldana does not have this, and from what I saw of her in the footage, she still looks way too damn skinny. Gamora needs to be bulky, she needs to be huge as fuck, she needs to look like she can crush your skull just by grabbing it and squeezing a little, and Saldana doesn't look like that. What else? So I have more problems. So there was this one scene in the court where all of the Guardians are lined up next to each other. In those crime, TV shows where they line up like witnesses and stuff, and they ask a guy to see, is that the guy who attacked you, yes or no, and they have 5 guys who look like each other. They're kind of lined up like that, and they're all like in handcuffs, and they're standing in front of some kind of Supreme Court. I think it's the Nova Corps, I'm not sure, but anyway, they're being judged for their crimes. They're being called, they say they call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we get a couple of funny moments. The first supposedly funny moment is when one guy off-screen says, "What a bunch of a-holes." Is that supposed to be funny? Because it's not funny. It feels forced. Like, you know how some people say gosh or darn instead of damn and fuck? That's how it is. When you say, "Are you effing crazy?" or "What a bunch of a-holes," that doesn't sound right. Like, no one says that. No one. Everyone says assholes. No one says a-hole. No one. No one, no one, no one, no one, no one. And there's another moment in there that feels really out of place, because that whole a-hole line, that feels like something out of Kick-Ass. And since this is Disney, and we know they sure as hell won't market this movie like Kick-Ass, because this is probably going to cost at least like $200 million to make at the very least, we know they're not going to make it R. The next Kick-Assy moment that feels really out of place, and it's supposed to be funny but it comes off as completely forced, is when Chris Pratt's crimes are basically being, counted in front of him, and he basically shows the guy the middle finger. Now, if this was Kick-Ass, that would be funny as hell. And it's not here, because it just feels forced. Like, oh, look, he's showing a middle finger in a Disney movie. Look how funny it is. Look. That's how it feels like. It feels completely forced. And this is what I'm getting from the film. This feels like Kick-Ass in space, except it's rated PG-13, and Kick-Ass cannot work in space. Like, you cannot do Kick-Assy type of humor for a film that's supposed to be marketed for kids, because we know these guys are going to market this for kids, and I can already see the huge shitstorm of people who are going to go into this film thinking it's just another happy feel-good Marvel movie, and they're just going to see people like showing middle fingers. Probably there's going to be a lot of cleavage because this guy directed porn, for freak's sake, and I don't understand. How could Kevin Feige let such a cast be brought together? How could he let such a production team handle a property like this? Like, this thing is already a huge-ass gamble. Like, no one ever thought a Guardians of the Galaxy movie would work, and I already feel this film is completely pointless because Thanos isn't even going to be in Avengers 2. Like, Thanos isn't going to show up in a Marvel movie at least until 2018, 19, or maybe even later than that. So this film immediately feels kind of pointless. It feels like it's set up for something that won't get paid off for 5 or 6 more years at the very least. And going back to the humor feels unbelievably forced. Like I said, you cannot do kick-assy humor in a PG-13 movie. I say either get rid of it at all, or make it R and go completely all the way. But we know they aren't going to make it R because R-rated superhero movies almost always bomb, except Kick-Ass. But Kick-Ass was dirt cheap. Like, Kick-Ass cost $30 million to make, and it had next to no marketing per se. It maybe had like $10 million for marketing, and it made $100 million at the box office, and it made $140 million in DVD and Blu-ray sales. So that's $240 million of profit from the box office and DVD and Blu-ray sales. For a film like this that's going to cost anywhere between $150 million to $200 million, that's not enough. That's a box office bomb. This movie's going to need to make at least between $300 and $400 million just to cover its box office stuff, and that's without all the marketing costs, which is going to probably add another $100 million to the mix. And like I said, this is the wrong guy they picked for this film. Like, they really should have picked someone who was going to tackle this source material seriously. Like, you can have humor, but when you're going to try to have PG-13 kick-assy humor in a Guardians movie, it doesn't feel right. It feels out of place, and it feels completely forced. And dear God, that a-holes line and that whole middle finger thing, not only did I not laugh, I really fucking cringed. And this is a big problem that all Marvel movies are going to have from here on out. Like, I can already tell. Like, Iron Man 3 was not an Iron Man movie. That was a comedy, a parody, a farce starring Iron Man characters. Thor: The Dark World is already going to have plenty of comedy. Like, they've already stated, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of comedy and shit, because Iron Man 3 totally didn't have the most forced comedy of all time in a comic book film. And that line at the end of the Thor trailer, like when he said, "Anyone else?" Was that supposed to be funny? Really? No, that was cringeworthy. And the exact same problem is here. The humor doesn't work. Like, I sound like a broken record, but you cannot do kick-ass style humor or kick-ass style movie and make it PG-13. And, like, I know this film has a big-ass budget, and we probably won't figure it out until the movie comes out in another year, but this film looks really cheap. And now, to be fair, I will voice a couple of positive things. Groot and Rocket Raccoon look freaking amazing. Like, holy shit, when I saw Rocket Raccoon and how he looked, and he's not even finished yet. Like, this is only 2 weeks of footage. This film has like maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of shooting, and Rocket Raccoon and Groot look so good. Like, when I saw Rocket Raccoon, I kind of like nerdgasmed. It was so cool to see him, and he looked so authentic. Like, he looked real, and Groot looked pretty damn cool. Like, I'm actually kind of alright with his design. Like, I wish he had more of the classic design here. He kind of looks like a tree man, but maybe as he grows, his appearance is gonna change. But yeah, like, I know I've been really negative about this film, ever since I started this video, but I will say that Groot and Rocket Raccoon look freaking amazing, and I hope to God they get a good voice actor for Rocket Raccoon, because if they get the dumbass who plays him now in Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm gonna kill myself. I will genuinely bash my freaking head in and just bleed out and die on the floor, because that guy is a terrible Rocket Raccoon. Either get the guy who did him at Earth's Mightiest Heroes or get the fuck out. Okay? That's all I'm saying on that matter. So yeah, if you guys can't tell, I'm really not excited for this film. I think this could be the first legitimately bad Marvel Studios movie. I think that a lot of the people here are miscast. I think the guy they chose to direct the film won't do a good job, and just from the footage I saw, the footage just looks really cheap. This feels like a TV movie from like the 80s or 90s. It just doesn't look that good. Star-Lord doesn't look good even with the mask. The mask feels wrong. And pretty much the only things I liked about from the footage I saw were Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Everything else didn't. The humor feels like cheap PG-13 kick-ass humor that's completely watered down, and yeah, I already said enough on that. The action really doesn't look that impressive. The aliens look really, really cheap, with the exception of Groot and Rocket Raccoon. I think Star-Lord, Star-Lord, Gamora, and Drax are all terribly, terribly miscast, and the guy they chose to direct this movie is a complete fucking hack who should never be allowed to work in Hollywood ever again, or make any film ever, let alone quite possibly the most risky Marvel movie of all time. Because if this movie fails, I don't think Marvel Studios is going to be quite so eager to invest in these kinds of risky experiments, because like this and Ant-Man are really risky propositions, and if these films fall on their face and fail, they're screwed. Like from what I've seen right now, this I think could be the first legitimately bad Marvel Studios film. Now, I think Iron Man 3 is their first legitimately bad film, but a good majority of the people actually do like the film, so it's a failure in my eyes, only in the eyes of some other people who dislike it and share my opinion on it. But I think this could be the one where people are almost unanimously just gonna go, what the fuck have you done? That's it. Like, I haven't... Yeah, so, okay, right, I've been rambling for like 20 minutes now. I've said what I wanted to say. I know I sound like a broken record, especially over the comedy thing, but the comedy thing really looks bad. And all in all, I have absolutely no faith in this film. I think it's going to be a disaster, and I'm not excited for this. The only Marvel movie I legitimately give a shit about anymore is Thor: The Dark World, and if they ruin my second favorite Marvel hero like they ruined my first favorite Marvel hero, and that's Iron Man, of course, like they did with Iron Man 3, Phase 2 is an official failure in my book, and nothing will be able to redeem it. I don't give a shit about Ultron, I don't give a shit about Avengers, I clearly don't give a shit about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I couldn't give less of a fuck about Winter Soldier, because I really, really, really dislike Captain America, and the first Captain America movie was boring as piss. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy, and my little thoughts on some of the other Marvel Studios projects. I pray to God this film isn't a complete piece of shit, but from what I've seen, yeah, we're in for a special ride, guys. We are in for a wild ride when this thing comes out, that's for sure.